Imagine this. A young comedian walks onto one of the biggest stages in the world, ready to face millions of viewers. The lights are bright, the audience is buzzing with excitement, and the host sitting across from her is none other than Ellen DeGeneres, someone who has been a household name for decades. This isn't just any guest appearance, it's a golden opportunity for the comedian to showcase her talent and wit. But what happens next? Well, that's where things get interesting. The comedian's name is Jasmine Crockett, and she's been making waves lately. Her sharp humor and fearless attitude have earned her fans all over the globe. People love how she calls out nonsense without holding back, whether it's about life, relationships, or even herself. She doesn't shy away from tough topics, but she always does it in a way that makes people laugh. Recently, she released a Netflix special that blew up online. Clips from the show were shared everywhere, turning her into an overnight sensation. So naturally, when Ellen invited her to be on the show, everyone knew it was going to be a memorable episode. Now, picture Jasmine walking out onto the set. She's wearing her signature confident smile, looking like she owns the place. The crowd erupts into applause, cheering loudly as she takes her seat. Ellen greets her warmly, saying something funny to break the ice. You can tell right away that there's chemistry between them. It feels like two pros sizing each other up before the real game begins. And honestly, that's exactly what's happening here. Ellen starts off by complimenting Jasmine on her rise to fame. "You've really taken the comedy world by storm," she says, leaning forward slightly. "What's it like to go from performing in small clubs to suddenly having millions of people watch your every move?" Jasmine chuckles softly, brushing off the praise like a true pro. "Honestly," she says, "it still feels surreal. One day I'm telling jokes to 5 people in a dingy bar, and the next thing I know, my mom is calling me crying because she saw me on TV. That part was kind of scary." The audience laughs at her honesty. They can relate to her story because it's not too different from their own dreams of success. But Jasmine doesn't stop there. She goes on to share some hilarious stories from her early days, like the time she accidentally tripped on stage during a performance and turned it into a joke that got the whole room laughing, or the time she bombed so hard at an open mic night that she had to buy drinks for the bartender just to apologize. These little anecdotes make her feel relatable, like someone you'd want to hang out with after work. As the conversation continues, you can see why Jasmine has become such a favorite. She's quick-witted, down-to-earth, and unafraid to poke fun at herself. Even Ellen seems genuinely impressed, nodding along and laughing at all the right moments. For now, everything seems to be going smoothly, but if you've ever watched a live talk show, you know that these moments of calm often lead to something unexpected. And sure enough, just as the audience starts to settle into the rhythm of the interview, Ellen throws out a question that changes the tone completely. It's playful, at least on the surface, but there's a hint of curiosity underneath, maybe even a challenge. What happens next will leave everyone talking for weeks. The interview was going great so far, better than anyone could have expected. Jasmine had cracked jokes, shared funny stories from her past, and even made Ellen laugh out loud a few times. The audience loved her energy, and you could tell they were eating up every word she said. But then, something shifted. It wasn't sudden or dramatic at first, just a tiny change in the air that made people sit up a little straighter. Ellen leaned back in her chair, smiling as usual, but there was a glint in her eye. Anyone who's watched her show knows that look. It's the kind of smile that says, "All right, let's see what you're really made of." She tilted her head slightly and asked, "So, I've heard something interesting about you. People say you're not afraid to call someone out if they deserve it. Is that true?" Jasmine paused for a second, her lips curling into a small smirk. She knew exactly where this was heading. Ellen wasn't just asking a casual question, she was testing her. Maybe it was harmless fun, or maybe it was a way to push Jasmine out of her comfort zone. Either way, Jasmine didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees like she was about to spill a secret. "Well," Jasmine began, her voice calm but laced with mischief, "I guess you could say I have a low tolerance for nonsense. If someone's being fake or trying to pull one over on me, yeah, I'll probably point it out. But hey, isn't that part of being a comedian? We notice things other people might miss and turn them into jokes. The audience chuckled softly, nodding along. They liked how Jasmine handled herself, confident but not arrogant. Ellen seemed pleased too, nodding slowly as if she agreed. But then, almost casually, she added, "That's fair, but do you ever worry about burning bridges? In Hollywood? You know, ticking off the wrong people?" Now, this was the moment everyone would remember later. On the surface, it sounded like a normal question, the kind hosts ask to keep conversations lively. But there was something else beneath the words, a subtle dig, maybe even a challenge. It was almost like Ellen was saying, "You think you're so bold? Let's see how bold you really are." Jasmine didn't blink. She sat there for a heartbeat longer than necessary, letting the weight of the question sink in. Then, with a slow, deliberate smile, she said, "You know, Ellen, I figure if someone builds a bridge made of hypocrisy, it's probably better to burn it down before it collapses on its own." The room went quiet. Not dead silence. There were still a few nervous giggles scattered around, but it felt like everyone held their breath for a split second. Did Jasmine just throw shade at Ellen? Or was it all part of the act? No one was entirely sure, but one thing was certain. This wasn't your typical late-night interview anymore. Ellen blinked once, clearly caught off guard. For a woman who had spent years mastering the art of keeping cool under pressure, this was unexpected. Her smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before she recovered, laughing it off with a wave of her hand. "Wow, okay," she said, her voice a mix of surprise and amusement. "Looks like we've got a live wire here today." But Jasmine wasn't done yet. Oh no, she was just getting started. With a playful grin, she leaned back in her chair, looking completely relaxed. "Oh, don't worry, Ellen," she said smoothly. "I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. After all, isn't that what you do best? Turning awkward moments into entertainment." This time, the audience gasped audibly. Some people clapped, impressed by Jasmine's quick wit, while others looked unsure, wondering if they should laugh or cringe. A few glanced nervously at Ellen, waiting to see how she'd react. Would she take it as a joke, or would things get awkward? Ellen forced a laugh, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. All right, she said, holding up her hands, in mock surrender. "Let's move on to something less spicy." She tried to steer the conversation back to safer territory, asking Jasmine about her upcoming projects and tour dates, but the tension lingered in the air, impossible to ignore. Backstage, the producers exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't supposed to happen. Sure, banter between guests and hosts was common, but this felt different. It felt personal. And judging by the murmurs rippling through the audience, they weren't the only ones who noticed. Meanwhile, Jasmine appeared unfazed. She answered Ellen's follow-up questions politely, cracking a few more jokes to lighten the mood. But there was no denying what had just happened. In those few minutes, Jasmine had taken control of the conversation, and maybe even the entire show. As the segment wrapped up, Ellen thanked Jasmine for coming on and joked about how she'd need therapy after this. The audience laughed, but the underlying tension remained. When the cameras cut to commercial, the buzz backstage was electric. Everyone wanted to know, what did Jasmine mean by that comment? Was it pre-planned, or did she come up with it on the spot? And most importantly, how would Ellen handle the fallout? Little did they know, this was only the beginning. By the time the episode aired, millions of viewers would be talking about it, dissecting every word Jasmine said and debating whether she'd crossed a line or delivered the ultimate mic drop. As soon as the cameras cut to commercial, the energy backstage shifted. The crew scrambled to reset for the next segment, but whispers filled the air. Everyone had seen what just happened. Jasmine's bold comeback, Ellen's stunned reaction, and the audience's mixed response. The tension was palpable, like an invisible storm cloud hovering over the set. Ellen, still holding her trademark smile, leaned back in her chair for a moment, exhaling quietly. She glanced at her team, who were busy pretending not to notice anything unusual. One of the producers gave her a reassuring nod, mouthing something about moving on, but it was clear this wasn't going to blow over easily. Meanwhile, Jasmine sat calmly in her seat, sipping from a glass of water as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Her confidence was almost intimidating. The audience, on the other hand, couldn't stop buzzing. People nudged their neighbors, pointing at the stage and whispering theories about what had just unfolded. Some thought Jasmine's comment was hilarious, a perfect example of her sharp wit. Others felt she might have gone too far, crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed, especially on live TV. But no matter where they stood, everyone agreed. This was unforgettable. When the show came back from the break, Ellen tried to play it cool. She introduced the next segment with her usual charm, cracking a joke about how comedians always keep you on your toes. The audience laughed politely, but it was obvious they were still thinking about what Jasmine had said. Even Ellen seemed a little distracted, glancing at Jasmine occasionally as if trying to gauge whether there was more to come. But Jasmine wasn't letting up. During the final minutes of the interview, Ellen asked her about her plans for the future. "So what's next for you?" she said, her voice light and breezy, as if trying to steer the conversation towards safer ground. Jasmine smiled, leaning forward again. "Well, I've got a tour coming up which I'm really excited about, and honestly I just want to keep doing what I love, making people laugh while maybe making them think a little too." She paused for effect, then added with a mischievous twinkle in her eye, "And who knows, maybe I'll write a book someday, something like how to handle awkward moments without losing your cool." The audience erupted into laughter, clapping loudly. Ellen forced another laugh, though it sounded a bit forced this time. "Oh, you're killing me today," she joked, waving her hand dramatically. But deep down, it was clear she wasn't entirely comfortable with how things were playing out. Once the taping wrapped up, the real drama began. As soon as the cameras stopped rolling, Ellen disappeared backstage, surrounded by her team. Rumors quickly spread among the crew that she was upset, not furious, but definitely annoyed. One insider later revealed that Ellen muttered something along the lines of, "Who does she think she is? This is my show." It wasn't anger so much as frustration, like a teacher caught off guard by a particularly clever student. Meanwhile, Jasmine handled the aftermath with grace. Backstage, reporters swarmed her, eager to get her take on what had just happened. "Did you mean to call Ellen out like that?" one reporter asked, microphone thrust in her face. Jasmine shrugged casually, her smile never wavering. "I didn't come here to start anything," she said. "But let's be real, if someone gives you an opening, you take it. That's comedy 101. Besides, I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone. I was just being honest." Her answer only fueled the fire. By the time the episode aired, clips of the exchange had already leaked online. Social media exploded within minutes. Fans of both Ellen and Jasmine weighed in, debating every detail. Some praised Jasmine for standing her ground and calling out hypocrisy, even subtly. Others defended Ellen, saying she was just doing her job as a host and didn't deserve to be roasted on her own show. Late-night talk shows couldn't resist jumping on the bandwagon. Comedians reenacted the moment, turning it into sketches and memes. Memes of Jasmine looking smug with captions like, "When you roast the queen of daytime TV," flooded Instagram and Twitter. Even late-night hosts chimed in, joking about how Jasmine had pulled off the ultimate power move. "Did you see that?" one host said during his monologue. "She walked into Ellen's house, ate her snacks, and then burned the place down, all in under 5 minutes. That's how you make a name for yourself." For Jasmine, the attention was overwhelming, but in the best way possible. Overnight, she became a symbol of speaking truth to power. People admired her courage, her quick thinking, and her refusal to back down. Offers started pouring in, movie roles, brand endorsements, and invitations to appear on other major shows. Her social media followers skyrocketed, with fans calling her everything from the Queen of Comebacks to a breath of fresh air. Ellen's team, on the other hand, worked overtime to manage the fallout. They released a statement saying the exchange was all in good fun, emphasizing that Ellen appreciated clever banter. But behind closed doors, sources claimed the incident left a sour taste. Ellen reportedly told close friends that while she respected Jasmine's talent, she hadn't expected such a direct jab on live television. Still, Ellen knew better than to let it escalate. A few days later, she addressed the situation briefly during her opening monologue. "You know, hosting a show like this means you never know what's going to happen," she said with a wry smile. "Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and apparently I lost that round." The audience laughed, but it was clear she was putting the whole thing behind her. As soon as the episode aired, it was like dropping a match into a pool of gasoline. The internet lit up instantly. Clips of Jasmine's bold comeback started circulating everywhere, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and even news websites. People couldn't get enough of it. For hours, the moment dominated social media feeds, turning what had happened on live TV into a global conversation. Fans were divided. Some thought Jasmine was an absolute legend for standing her ground and delivering such a clever burn. They praised her for being fearless, calling her the queen of comebacks and saying she gave Ellen exactly what she deserved. Others weren't so sure. They argued that while Jasmine was funny, maybe she'd gone too far by taking a jab at Ellen during her own show. After all, Ellen had been nothing but kind to her throughout the interview. Or had she? The memes came, fast and furious. Someone edited a clip of Jasmine smirking after her comment, adding text that read, "When you roast the queen of daytime TV." Another meme showed Ellen laughing nervously with the caption, "Me trying to act cool when I've just been roasted on live TV." These posts racked up millions of likes and shares, turning the moment into a cultural phenomenon. Late-night talk show hosts couldn't resist weighing in either. One host joked, "I don't know who needed to hear this, but if you're ever invited to be on The Ellen Show, don't forget your boxing gloves." Another said, "Jasmine didn't just step onto Ellen's stage. She took over the whole show. That's how you make a name for yourself." Their jokes only added fuel to the fire, keeping the story alive for days. But it wasn't just comedians chiming in. Regular people were talking about it too. On Reddit, threads popped up dissecting every second of the exchange. Some users defended Ellen, saying she was just doing her job as a host and didn't deserve to be called out like that. Others sided with Jasmine, pointing out that if Ellen could dish it out, she should be able to take it. The debate raged on, with both sides throwing their opinions into the ring. For Jasmine, the sudden surge in attention was overwhelming, but also exciting. Overnight, she became a household name. Her social media accounts blew up with new followers, messages, and comments. People were tagging her in posts, sharing her clips, and praising her for being unapologetically herself. Offers started pouring in from all directions. Movie studios wanted her to audition for roles, brands asked her to promote their products, and comedy clubs begged her to headline their tours. It was like winning the lottery, except instead of money, she won fame and opportunities. Her team worked tirelessly to keep up with the demand. They scheduled interviews, planned appearances, and negotiated deals, trying to capitalize on the momentum. But through it all, Jasmine stayed grounded. In an interview a few days later, she addressed the backlash head-on. "Look, I didn't go on that show to start drama," she said calmly. "I went there to have fun and share my humor. If someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer honestly. That's just who I am." Her honesty resonated with people. Many fans appreciated that she didn't shy away from addressing the controversy. Instead, she owned her actions and explained her perspective without sounding defensive or arrogant. It made her seem even more relatable, like someone who wasn't afraid to speak her mind, even if it meant ruffling a few feathers. Ellen, meanwhile, handled the situation with her usual professionalism. During her next episode, she briefly mentioned the incident, brushing it off with humor. "You know, hosting a show like this means you never know what's going to happen," she said with a grin. "Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And apparently, I lost that round." The audience laughed, and Ellen moved on to the next segment as if nothing had happened. Behind the scenes, though, things weren't quite as smooth. Sources close to the production revealed that Ellen was frustrated. Not angry, but definitely annoyed. She reportedly told her team that while she respected Jasmine's talent, She hadn't expected such a direct jab on live TV. Still, Ellen knew better than to let it escalate. She understood that staying silent and moving forward was the best way to handle the situation. For her fans, Ellen's response was exactly what they expected. They admired her ability to laugh at herself and not hold grudges. Many took to social media to defend her, saying she didn't deserve to be attacked like that. "Ellen has done so much good for the world," one fan tweeted. "Why are we tearing her down now?" Others pointed out that Jasmine's comment might have been a low blow, especially since Ellen had always been supportive of new talent. The debate continued for weeks, with no clear winner in sight. Some saw Jasmine as a hero, a voice of truth, in an industry filled with hypocrisy. Others viewed her as reckless, someone who prioritized shock value over respect. Meanwhile, Ellen remained a polarizing figure. For years, rumors had swirled about her management style and alleged double standards. While some dismissed these claims as gossip, others believed Jasmine's comment had struck a nerve because it hinted at deeper issues. Through it all, one thing was undeniable. The moment had become a defining chapter in both women's careers. For Jasmine, it solidified her reputation as a fearless comedian who wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. For Ellen, it reignited conversations about her legacy and whether she truly practiced what she preached. Neither woman could have predicted how much impact a single exchange would have, not just on their lives, but on the entire entertainment industry. And yet, despite the chaos, there was something oddly inspiring about it all. Here was a young comedian using her platform to say what others might have been too afraid to voice. And here was a veteran host showing grace under pressure, refusing to let one awkward moment define her. It was messy, complicated, and undeniably human. A reminder that even the biggest stars are just people, navigating life one unpredictable moment at a time. By the time the dust settled, one thing was clear. This wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Backstage after the taping, the atmosphere was tense but not explosive. Jasmine walked off the set with her usual confidence, smiling at crew members and shaking hands as if nothing unusual had happened. She wasn't gloating or showing any sign of regret, just calm and collected. Her manager pulled her aside for a quick chat, whispering something about how this is gonna blow up. Jasmine nodded, unfazed, and said simply, "Let's see what happens." Meanwhile, Ellen disappeared into her dressing room surrounded by her team. The door closed firmly behind them, and though no one could hear exactly what was being said, it didn't take a genius to figure out they were discussing what had just unfolded on live TV. Sources later revealed that Ellen was frustrated, not angry enough to throw things or scream, but definitely annoyed. One insider claimed she muttered something like, "Who does she think she is? This is my show." But even in that moment, Ellen seemed more surprised than anything else. She hadn't expected Jasmine to push back so hard, or to do it so publicly. Despite the tension, both women managed to keep things civil when they crossed paths backstage. Ellen approached Jasmine with a forced smile, trying to lighten the mood. "You're lucky you're funny," she joked, "or I'd never invite you back." Jasmine laughed along, responding with a playful shrug. "Hey, if you're gonna ask tough questions, you better be ready for tough answers," she quipped, her tone light but pointed. The exchange might have looked like a truce to outsiders, but insiders knew better. There was an unspoken understanding between the two. This wasn't over. While Ellen put on a brave face for the cameras and the public, it was clear she felt blindsided. And Jasmine, for her all bravado, likely knew she'd stirred the pot in a way that wouldn't be forgotten anytime soon. In the days that followed, the incident became the talk of Hollywood. Producers, writers, and comedians gathered in coffee shops and green rooms, dissecting every detail of what had happened. Some admired Jasmine's boldness, calling her a trailblazer who dared to challenge one of the biggest names in entertainment. Others thought she'd crossed a line, questioning whether her comment was necessary or respectful. Either way, everyone agreed on one thing: Jasmine had guts. For Ellen's team, damage control was the top priority. They released statements emphasizing, that the exchange was all in good fun, part of the playful banter that makes talk shows entertaining. Behind closed doors, however, there was concern about how the moment would affect Ellen's image. For years, she had been seen as America's sweetheart, a cheerful, kind-hearted host who brought joy to millions. But lately, whispers about her management style and alleged double standards had started to surface. Jasmine's comment, vague as it was, seemed to tap into those underlying criticisms, making people wonder if there was truth to the rumors. Ellen herself handled the situation with grace, at least outwardly. During her next episode, she briefly addressed the controversy, turning it into a lighthearted joke. "Hosting a show like this means you never know what's going to happen," she told the audience with a wry grin. "Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and apparently I lost that round." The crowd erupted into laughter, and Ellen moved on seamlessly to the next segment. To anyone watching, it seemed like she had brushed it off without a second thought, but those close to Ellen knew differently. Friends reported that she was still bothered by the incident, though she tried not to let it show. Over dinner one night, she reportedly vented to a trusted confidant saying, "I get that comedy is about pushing boundaries, but there's a difference between being funny and being mean-spirited." Still, she refused to escalate the situation further, knowing that dragging it out would only make things worse. As for Jasmine, life changed almost overnight. Offers poured in from every direction: movie roles, endorsement deals, invitations to perform at major venues. Her social media following skyrocketed, with fans hailing her as a symbol of authenticity and courage. Messages flooded her inbox, thanking her for standing up to someone so powerful. "You gave us a voice," one fan wrote. "Thank you for saying what we've all been thinking." Jasmine embraced the attention with humility, always careful to strike a balance between owning her moment and staying grounded. In interviews, she reiterated that she hadn't intended to start drama. "I'm a comedian," she explained. "My job is to notice things and turn them into jokes. If someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer honestly. That's just who I am." Her honesty resonated with people. Many admired her ability to address the controversy head-on without sounding defensive or arrogant. Instead of shying away from the backlash, she leaned into it, using it as an opportunity to connect with her growing fan base. She shared behind-the-scenes stories from the taping, posted videos answering frequently asked questions, and even teased new material inspired by the experience. But not everyone was thrilled about Jasmine's rise to fame. Critics argued that her comment had been unnecessarily harsh, accusing her of prioritizing shock value over respect. Some suggested she was riding the wave of controversy to boost her career, pointing out that timing like this doesn't happen by accident. Others defended her, saying she was simply doing her job as a comedian, calling out hypocrisy wherever she saw it. The debate raged on, with no clear resolution in sight. What was clear, though, was that the moment had left a lasting impact on both women. For Jasmine, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to prove herself as more than just a viral sensation. For Ellen, it served as a reminder of the complexities of fame and the challenges of maintaining a flawless public image. Behind the scenes, their relationship remained frosty. While neither woman spoke ill of the other publicly, insiders claimed they weren't exactly exchanging holiday cards anytime soon. Still, both seemed to understand that this was part of the game. In Hollywood, moments like these are inevitable, collisions of personalities, egos, and perspectives that spark conversations far beyond the confines of a single episode. And maybe, in some strange way, that was the point. Whether intentional or not, Jasmine's comeback had done more than entertain. It had ignited a dialogue about power, accountability, and the fine line between humor and criticism. People were talking, thinking, and debating, which is exactly what great comedy is supposed to do. By the time the dust settled, one thing was undeniable. Neither Jasmine nor Ellen would ever forget that day. It had become a defining moment in both their careers, one that would shape how they were perceived for years to come. Months passed and the dust began to settle. But the ripple effects of that unforgettable moment continued to shape both Jasmine's and Ellen's lives in ways neither could have predicted. For Jasmine, it marked the beginning of something bigger than she ever imagined. She wasn't just another comedian anymore. She was a cultural figure, someone who had dared to challenge the status quo and walked away stronger for it. Her career skyrocketed, fueled by fans who admired her boldness and authenticity. Her stand-up tour sold out faster than anyone expected, with tickets disappearing within minutes of going on sale. People lined up around blocks, eager to see the woman who had taken on one of the biggest names in entertainment and come out on top. At her shows, Jasmine didn't shy away from addressing the incident directly. "Let me tell you," she joked during one performance, "if you're going to roast someone, make sure they're not sitting 10 feet away from you." The audience roared with laughter, loving every second of it, but Jasmine also used her platform to talk about more serious issues, things like honesty, accountability, and the importance of speaking your truth. "I didn't go into that interview trying to start drama," she told her fans during an emotional segment of her act, "but I did go in knowing who I am, and if being true to myself means ruffling a few feathers, then so be it." These moments resonated deeply with her audience, many of whom saw themselves in her words. They weren't just laughing at her jokes, they were connecting with her message. On the flip side, Ellen faced her own challenges in the aftermath. While her show remained popular, the incident reignited conversations about her legacy. For years, she had been celebrated as a pioneer, a trailblazer who broke barriers and brought joy to millions. But whispers about her management style and alleged double standards had lingered quietly behind the scenes. Jasmine's comment, vague as it was, seemed to shine a spotlight on those criticisms, forcing people to confront questions they might have avoided before. Ellen handled it all with grace, never publicly addressing the controversy beyond her initial lighthearted joke. Privately, though, friends say she spent time reflecting on the situation. Some speculated that it may have even influenced changes within her production team, though nothing was ever confirmed officially. What was clear was that Ellen wasn't willing to let one awkward moment define her. Instead, she focused on what she did best, making people laugh and spreading kindness through her show. Still, the tension between the two women lingered quietly beneath the surface. Neither spoke negatively about the other in public, but insiders claimed their relationship remained strained. When asked about it during interviews, Jasmine always gave diplomatic answers, saying things like, "Ellen is a legend, and I respect her work. We just had a moment, and moments happen." Ellen echoed similar sentiments, praising Jasmine's talent while keeping her distance. It was a professional truce, one that allowed them both to move forward without reopening old wounds. Years later, when people looked back on the incident, opinions still varied widely. Some viewed Jasmine as a hero, a fearless comedian who used her voice to call out hypocrisy in an industry full of it. Others thought she had gone too far, arguing that sharp humor shouldn't come at the expense of mutual respect. Regardless of where people stood, everyone agreed on one thing. It was a pivotal moment in pop culture history. For Jasmine, the experience became a cornerstone of her success. She went on to release multiple Netflix specials, star in movies, and even host her own late-night talk show, a role that allowed her to showcase her unique blend of wit and wisdom. Fans loved how she balanced humor with heart, tackling tough topics while keeping the mood light. Her ability to connect with people, whether through laughter or thoughtful conversation, made her a household name. As for Ellen, the incident served as a reminder of the complexities of fame. Being in the public eye meant facing criticism, navigating controversies, and constantly reinventing yourself to stay relevant. Yet despite the challenges, Ellen remained a beloved figure, known for her generosity and charm. Though the moment with Jasmine may have tested her resilience, it ultimately reinforced her determination to keep moving forward. Looking back, it's hard not to see the irony in how things unfolded. Two incredibly talented women, each at different stages of their careers, had collided in a way that left a lasting impact on both. For Jasmine, it was a turning point that propelled her to new heights. For Ellen, It was a humbling reminder of the power of words and the importance of embracing imperfection. In the end, the showdown became more than just a viral moment. It became a lesson about courage, accountability, and the delicate balance between humor and sensitivity. It reminded us all that even the biggest stars are human, capable of making mistakes and learning from them. And perhaps most importantly, it showed us the transformative power of comedy, not just to entertain, but to spark meaningful conversations that linger long after the laughter fades. So, what do you think? Was Jasmine's comeback justified, or did she cross a line? Maybe the answer lies somewhere in between. One thing's for sure, the world will never forget the day a rising comedian stunned a daytime TV icon with a single sentence. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly how it should be.